chips are a huge blessing. But it's a double blessing because we're getting to compost our enemies. There's a tree here in the deep south. For those of you who are up north, you have never come across this tree, but they call it popcorn tree or Chinese tallow tree. And you know, it has some uses. It's good for honey, it's good for the bees. Apparently you can make an oil out of it, hence the name Chinese tallow tree, which is supposedly a good oil. However, I haven't been able to boil the oil out of it or ever get it to work, so you probably have to have some sort of big oil crushing machine to make it. But the downside of this tree is it is super invasive. It makes colonies of trees. It drops thousands and thousands of seeds. They spring up everywhere. Any little waste space, any little opening, they start filling it up. They will fill up a pasture. They'll fill up the roadsides. And then as they grow, they make lots and lots more. And if you knock a tree over, a bunch of new ones come up out of the roots that are still left in the ground. A little piece of root this big in the ground could start a new tree. So it's really a pest. However, they grow very quickly, which means they make a lot of biomass. And I've been trying to eliminate them from my property. I probably have a few hundred, but we've been knocking them over and trying to get rid of them. And a friend of mine lent me his professional power take-off chipper. So that has been the most fun we've had in an extremely long time. The reason we're able to use this professional wood chipper is because, as you've probably noticed, I bought a tractor. At the end of last year, I got a deal on a used 25 horsepower tractor. I got it 3 years old. It should survive a EMP. It has nothing digital on it. It's just a diesel engine. Doesn't have regen or any of that stuff on the tractors that they put on the higher horsepower ones. But it's enough to do more than what we need here, and it's been something I've been thinking about getting for an extremely long time. And pretty much I just go out in the yard and stare at it a lot, but we have put it to work occasionally. So the wood chipper that we have out in our pasture right now has been doing really good work and making chips for the grocery row gardens. And it's actually, though, a lot of chips required for these pathways because this is a pretty big garden.
And if you were only here for the popcorn trees, at this point, I stop talking about popcorn trees and start talking about garden updates and the Grow 500 challenge. And also, my sister Linda wants you to like and subscribe.
Last year we had a goal of 5,000 pounds of food. I'd like to do that again, but I'd like to do even more than that. I'd like to have enough that we have tons extra to give away, to sell, to use elsewhere. And so we're going to be getting a tiller for the tractor and doing some tilling. But in this area here, my regular grocery row gardens, we're going to be adding some micronutrient mix and trying to just raise the level of produce that we have. Like, for example, my wife and I were talking about this plant this morning. This is a Rosa rugosa, which makes nice big rose hips, which you can make jams out of, or you can dry them. This has all been pruned back and it's ready to take off for the spring. However, being here in the grocery row garden, it really is just a little bit of a pest. It tends to spread a little bit, it's thorny, and it doesn't make a lot of anything edible. So we were thinking, you know, we're coming into our third year of these grocery row gardens here. Things like this that are just not being super productive, we can take them out, maybe divide it up, spread it out in the food forest where it could be useful to us, or put it in a hedge, put it in a space where we're not giving it so much love and where it can just do its thing and we can harvest it if we want it and we can enjoy it where it is instead of having to keep coming by this thorny thing that is not very productive. But if we took this out and we put in something like a blueberry or another blackberry, or if we just filled this full of more watermelons, cucumbers, that sort of thing, eggplant, got a bunch of varieties of eggplant we're starting this year, we can get better use out of the space. Another one that's been kind of a pest that I'm thinking, I'm giving it one more year, it's the goji berries. The goji berries have bloomed and bloomed and bloomed the last 2 years without making a single berry. And they, you know, they've got compost around them. They've been fed. We've grown all kinds of wonderful produce out here. We get tons and tons of mulberries. But this thing is not pulling its weight. I want goji berries. It's no use just having a thing that roots all over the place and spreads into the pathways and makes tons and tons of canes, but never actually produces any fruit. So I've been a lot disappointed in these. We had goji berries in North Florida that produced goji berries for us, but this one's not doing it. And it's supposed to be self-fertile. So what are you gonna do? Maybe yank it out, but I'm gonna give it 1 more year because I really do want goji berries. They are useful. Here's another thing I want to show you. We had snow, what, 3 weeks ago? And now it's almost 80 degrees. The peach is confused. It doesn't know that it's midwinter. This is not good. It's not good to have temperatures that go down to almost 10 degrees and then come up to the 70s for weeks at a time. So this peach may do all of its blooming and then have them all frozen off in a few weeks, because usually we get more frosts in February and we get frosts into the middle or even late March, sometimes even at the beginning of April. So it's either got to stay warm or it's got to get cool again quick so this thing slows down. Otherwise it's going to bloom all the way to the top and we won't get a single peach. And that's going to be very disappointing, because the only reason I let this thing stay so big is because I wanted peaches off of it this year. And if they all freeze off, well, it's getting a major butchering and we're not getting peaches, which is kind of sad. But this peach is about 3 or 4 years old, and we transplanted it from our previous grocery row gardens at the rental house, and it transplanted very nicely. Extremely likes this soil and likes all the care that it gets in the grocery rows, but it's very confused by this bizarre weather. So we'll see what happens. We may just have a better year for vegetables, and we might have a lot of our fruits just go into bloom and disappoint us. So I'm going to be concentrating on a lot of vegetables. We're also trying to reset the shape of these beds. They got a little bit wide, so they need to come back like this. And then we're dumping these loads of chips with the Bobcat that I bought almost 2 years ago. The Bobcat is really nice for moving stuff around. I got an old used Bobcat in good shape for a really good price from a contractor who wasn't working anymore, at least not as heavily as he was. And between the Bobcat and the tractor, I mean, we still do a lot of manual labor in these gardens, but it allows us to do a lot more faster, particularly when we have over 10 acres to take care of. We planted this bed with Jerusalem artichokes last year, and they grew and they made a big mess and they fell all over, and I had to prune them back, and they gave us extremely low yields. The year before they had given us a few buckets from a few plants, so I planted a lot more, hoping that I could have a bunch of Jerusalem artichokes we could feed to livestock this year. But they only gave us less than a 5-gallon bucket's worth for all of this space. So let's pace it off. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So about 33 by 4 foot. That's a lot of space. There should have been, you know, like 5, 10, 15, 20 gallons. I mean, it should have been something probably like 10 5-gallon buckets worth. Well, they all got yanked out because the plan this year is we are going to do intensive apples through here. I have some shell apples from Randall at Flomaton Famous, and he grafted them for me this last year on ultra-dwarf rootstock, which means that they need some support because they have a weak root system, but it also means they make apples very quickly, and it is a southern adapted variety. So I'm going to put a row of apples planted very tightly in here like a hedge. So we dug it all up, roughed the ground up, and dug out all of the Jerusalem artichokes. I'll mix in some of the micronutrient mix that I'm going to make. I'm making Steve Solomon's mix, and I'm just waiting for a few things to arrive in the mail so I can start mixing that. And we'll just take this whole thing here, we'll stick a couple of posts in, and we'll put a row of apples, because apples are cool. We buy apples, and if we could grow apples instead, that would be much better. And I think we could actually grow quite a few apples in this space by growing them up on a wire, like we saw when I visited the apple orchard last fall up in Michigan. So we're going to do something similar here, but we're going to do it with a southern adapted shell apple, which comes from Bruton, Alabama. And that's a project I've been excited about, but it's been a year in the making, just planning it out. And I just planted Jerusalem artichokes in the interim to grow some seed out, which didn't work, so hopefully the apples will work better. Also, we are doing a challenge over in my school group. If you're a member of school, you can jump into the challenge. We are doing the Grow 500 challenge, which is grow 500 pounds of food starting now. So you can start anytime you want, but people are starting already who have warmer climates. But you have until August 1st, and you got to weigh it and take some pictures of it and post it. We have an active thread right now for the challenge, and we're going to give away 5 $100 gift certificates to my daughter's seed store, along with signed copies of Minimalist Gardening. And most of all, it's just a challenge to get people really thinking about replacing their groceries with what they grow. So I'm going to participate in that challenge too. I probably won't count all of the land I'm tilling up. I'm going to have to limit myself somehow, because it's totally not fair to have a tractor and so many acres, especially when most of the people that are gardening, and me for most of my life, was growing in a small space. But 500 pounds of food out of a small space is way more possible than you think, and we're sharing techniques on doing that, sharing crops that help, and just getting people, giving a challenge where everybody can encourage each other and get it rolling. So if you want to join that, I will put a link below. I appreciate the support. It's way better than being on Patreon, and I'm able to put a lot of videos up on that site. I've got exclusive interviews and a food forest course and a lot of other videos, including live Zoom calls, and I answer people's questions directly. So for less than the cost of going and eating out once a month, you can grow your own groceries, and I'm helping people because there's just so many subscribers on YouTube. I'm going to concentrate on those that are real serious about it and just want to get it done. I try to get everybody's comments answered. If you followed this channel for a while, you know that I answer my emails and I answer all the comments that I can. But to work directly and just answer things in depth, that's what school is for, and I have some wonderful supporters over there that have made it possible. So join us over there if you're interested, and we're going to be doing a lot more videos this spring because it's getting serious and it's obviously warming up. Thanks for joining me. Catch you all next time, and until then, may your thumbs always be green.